Ladies, gentlemen, and tarnished of all ages, the Shadow of the Erdtree expansion has come with a lot of new sort of toys to play around with, especially for those who love to create builds around specific themes. As in the base game, only a few of them were really able to actually have that done for them. Things like bleed builds have enough avenues to synergy that they were always extremely strong without really needing to branch away from the blood loss theme, but things like poison, on the other hand, were much harder to make work within that way, at least until you got a few items in the game that could apply deadly poison, and then you could actually get something working, but it was still just much weaker and had a lot less variety available to it. In Shadow of the Erdtree, however, new buffs have been added surrounding poison and deadly poison, new ways to apply deadly poison have been added as well, and importantly we have a really strong way to actually consume the poison debuff, which has overtaken the old poison moth flight, which served the same function in the base game, but simply much weaker. So today, we are going to talk about everything to do with poison in the Shadow of the Erdtree expansion, how it's improved, how it now looks, and then of course the big sort of build combo that was unlocked as a result of the expansion as well. Starting off, we have to sort of talk about the poisoned hand fist weapon. A lot of people are a bit more aware of its counterpart, the matting hand, but this is the same thing but for deadly poison. If a poison trigger is nearby while this is in one of your active weapon slots, you will get a small 7.5% or so damage increase to all damage that you deal for 30 seconds afterwards. This stacks on top of pre-existing buffs for this, such as the Kindred of Rot's Exaltation Talisman, which is the same exact effect but a 20% bonus, and the Mushroom Crown Helmet, which is again the same effect but a 10% bonus, all just stacking together though multiplicatively to make builds that apply poison significantly more powerful in general. This is found right here in the sort of swampy area under Ballarat Tower that you access using the Well Depths key in, well, the depths of the well. This is a bit of a complex one honestly though, so first I'll be showing you the path from the small private altar site of Grace in Ballarat Tower to get to the key itself, and then after that we will drop into the well. This spot right here is where the key would be if I didn't already have mine personally, so head back to the first site of Grace of this legacy dungeon, and then I'll walk you through to the well, to the door that the key unlocks, and then to the place where the poison hand weapon itself is waiting for you within. Then to augment that in an interesting way, we have the Deadly Poison Perfume Bottle, which is purchased from Tollier at the Pillar Path Cross site of Grace quite early on, and this quite simply applies deadly poison in general with all of its attacks, but the special part of it is in its unique weapon skill, which sprays a mist of deadly poison around you, not only pretty much guaranteeing a deadly poison proc on anyone within its radius, but also on yourself, which actually lets you guaranteed trigger the poison proc damage buffs that we were just talking about in the last section in a very simple and consistent way manually before you even enter a boss fight, which makes building around these poison buffs much more manageable and reliable all by itself as a way to make yourself more powerful. Past that, there was one further weapon that was added into the game with this DLC that applies deadly poison, and that is the Tooth Whip. This is found in the aptly named Whipping Hut, just to the east of the Bonnie Village. This thing, aside from looking just absolutely gnarly, applies deadly poison buildup on hit, and has an extremely interesting and potent unique skill that both does deadly poison damage itself, and applies a debuff to enemies that lowers their stamina regeneration. This weapon is, of course, mostly for PvP above anything else as a result of that, but it is a really interesting addition to the deadly poison sort of kit that the status has. Past that, we come to something even more interesting, at least in my opinion, which is a new Ash of War. The Poison Flower blooms twice. This comes from a scarab located here, just a short ride south of the Ravine North site of Grace in the Lower Altus area, and what this this does is push you into a kicking attack with a scarlet rot stinger coming out of your foot. So technically it's not poison itself, but when it does hit the enemy, it consumes both rot and poison debuffs that happen to be on them to do a ton of bonus damage. And it also applies scarlet rot itself and has build up as part of the Ash of War. And then you can see how full-on deadly poison builds are starting to really eat well as a result of all these things in the DLC. Specifically, let's now talk about an actual build that you can properly put together with all of these things interwoven and interlocking, working together to buff each other. And it's one that we actually put up on the channel back near release of the DLC about 3 weeks ago, but it is the perfect companion to this discussion, which is a combination of the Venomous Fang fist weapon from the base game, using the Poison Flower Blooms twice, Ash of War, and we also had it on Blood Affinity just so it would apply loads of bleed buildup as well to really maximize these status applications, now applying Deadly Poison, Scarlet Rot, and Bleed. Then with Poisoned Hand in the offhand, you get all the buffs from that still, even when two-handing the Venomous Fangs. You've got your Mushroom Crown for bonus buffs from this too, and your Kindred of Rot's Exaltation Talisman, your Shard of Alexander because you're using the Ash of War basically on repeat, and then the new buffs to kick attacks as well, as this does count as a kicking attack, which is honestly quite funny in itself. And of course, you can check out our full video on this build for the full setup right here, but I thought it would be fun to show you a bit of what this new stuff actually looks like when worked into a proper build. The flip side of this is, of course, the way that Deadly Poison is now being used as a pre-fight buff mechanism even for non-poison builds by using this perfume bottle, the new weapon here, on yourself. And this can affect the vast majority of builds. Honestly, if you are willing to go through a bit of a buff cycle before you enter a fight, it will give you a buff for the first 30 seconds of that fight, if you're willing to, also take the poison damage. Though you can always use poison boluses to actually counteract it and get rid of the poison from yourself, so it's honestly very much not that bad. So poison itself has more avenues now to strength, more synergies when the poison procs actually happen, more ways to apply deadly poison, which is the stronger variant of poison, and then you have a stronger way to consume poison procs as well as let us reapply them actively in a much easier way than what we had in the base game. There's a lot more variety, a lot more choice within the concepts and the confines of deadly poison that let you actually have a variety in the way that you play and actually choose what you want to do. It may not be bleed necessarily, but poison is in just such a better place than it has ever been. And if you like the idea of being just a dastardly little devil walking around inflicting diseases on everything that you fight without it making you feel weak, this is the time to do it. If you tried to do it in the base game and you had fun with it, but you thought it maybe just wasn't quite as strong as some other things, try it again now, because you might be surprised at how much it has grown and how much the capability is just increased of it to actually just be really, really strong. I hope you've all enjoyed this, and everyone, just a bit of a discussion about poison and deadly poison and how they have changed and improved with the release of the Shadow of the Erdtree expansion, simply due to the things that have been added around them, more than actually them being improved by themselves. And then I'll talk about how this all sort of comes together too. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.